So today we're going to talk about the Sharp 1440 lathe. We're going to go over some of the features of the machine, how to run it without injuring yourself would be the best thing that we can do. Right now we're going to talk about the RPMs on this machine. This machine has a gear drive system, and the way the system works is this shift will change RPMs. This shift will tell us whether we're on this side of these RPMs or we're on this side of this RPMs. And this lever down here, if you can zoom down, this lever down here says either low or high. So as you can see, the numbers run from 500 to 900 here, from 1100 to 1800 here. So this would be the low side, this would be the high side. If I want to set this machine at 400 RPMs, which is what most of our paperwork says, we don't actually have a 400, but we do have a 385. So I would shift the handle so it lines up with the 385, and I would make sure that this lever is facing in this direction, which says we're using these numbers. And then I would go down here and I would make sure that this lever is set at low. When I turn the machine on, I have to, this is what's known as an emergency stop. This should always be engaged when you're not running the machine so that you don't accidentally hit this handle and turn the machine on while your hands are near it. So you disengage the e-stop, turn the handle up, and we're running at 385 RPMs. That's RPM. The next step, did you get the foot brake? This is a foot brake. You can step on the foot brake. If you do that, step on it gently. We don't want to break the machine. So the next thing I'm going to show is how to set your feed rate. Feed rate is how quickly you want the cutter to move along the part, either in the X or the Z. That's these numbers down here. So the numbers on the top are threads per inch. When you have a thread per inch that's a quarter 20, those are screw sizes, quarter 20, 3/8, 16, etc. The numbers on the bottom, that's our feed rate. That's inches per revolution. So what we need to do is find the number we want. If we're doing 005, the closest thing to 005 would be 0051. And then we're going to set some of these gauges in order to create that feed rate along the machine. So with 005, I would follow my finger up, and I see the letter D and the number 2. So I would set the machine at D2, and then I would come back down to 005, and I follow along the bottom, and I see G and B. So I would set this at G. Sometimes you have to spin the chuck to get it to go into gear. I would set this on B, and now I'm ready to feed the machine at 5 thousandths per revolution. And what that means is every revolution that the chuck makes, the cutter is going to take 5 thousandths of material off. So when we turn the machine on, we can feed either in this direction or this direction. In order to feed in this direction, I want to pull this handle over and pull it up. And right now you can see it's feeding backwards. In order to change that, we need to change this handle. This handle says feed rate this way or feed rate that way. If I lift this handle up, now it's going to feed towards the part or away from the part. We want to go towards the part. So again, I turn the machine on. I turn the feed on, and now the cutter is moving towards the part. So this is forward and reverse and off. When this is in the middle where it is right now, it's off. When we lift it up, it's forward. Forward is the downward motion of the chuck. When we go to the middle, that's off. We can step on the brake to stop the machine. When we go down, it's running in reverse. Reverse is an upward motion of the chuck, moving away from us. None of our cutters want to cut that way, so we need to make sure that when we turn the machine on, before we engage the tool bit, that we're spinning in the right direction. We turn the machine on in the upward position, it's spinning down. That's the correct rotation. We're going to move the cutter towards the part. This direction is called the X-axis. This direction is called the Z-axis. We're going to move over in the X-axis. We want to be away from the part. On the Z, we move over in the X, then we're going to move in towards the part and very gently touch the face. This portion across the end, that's called the face of the part. We're going to touch it, and then we're going to gently cut across the face, and we're going to see if our cutter is centered properly. If the cutter isn't centered properly, then it's not going to make a proper cut across the face. So we make a cut to the middle, we stop the machine, we stop the spindle from spinning, we back away, and we look at the end, and that actually is perfectly on center. If there wasn't on center, there would be a button left over, and I'm actually going to demonstrate how that button works by lowering the cutter below the center line so we can see what happens when the tool is not properly centered. So we come in, we touch, we cut across the face, and you can see that there's a button left in the middle there. There's a high spot. It's not smooth like the rest of the part. That's telling me that the cutter's off center. Depending on where that button is in relation to the tip of the part will determine whether we're above or below center. At this point, I know I'm below center because I lowered the cutter, so I would simply adjust the tool by eye, and then I would come back, turn the machine back on, and cut again and see if we've adjusted it properly. And we can see that there's still a little bit of a button left there, so we're still a little low. Stop the machine and make the adjustment again. We're going to adjust up just a bit. Turn the machine back on, come over, and there we go. We cut across the face, we got a clean finish. The last thing I want to show you is how to engage the feed on this machine. When you turn the machine on, if we want to feed left to right, we pull this handle over to the left, over to the right, excuse me, and lift up. And the machine feeds in that direction. If I want to feed in and out, I would push this lever in towards the left, and then pull the handle down, and it feeds in towards the center line. So depending on whether we're facing or turning, we'll decide which way we want to feed. That's how you set the feed rate. When you step on the brake, the last thing you need to remember is when you step on the brake, it shuts the machine off. In order to turn the machine back on, you have to bring this handle back down to the middle and then come back up to the top in order to engage the spindle again. So this is called a digital readout, and this reads in thousandths of an inch. And this is what tells us how far we've moved in either direction. So I'm moving in Z. This is the Z axis down here. As I turn the dial, it's telling me how far I've moved in the Z axis. The top dial tells us how far we're moving in X. When I turn the dial either one way or the other, it will tell us how far we've moved in the X direction. One last thing I want to point out is these are spinning. So you need to make sure that your clothing is tucked in properly, because if you lean in like this and you're wearing loose clothing, it can get caught in that and it can pull you into the machine. So you need to make sure that you're very safe. Never put your hand near the chuck when it's moving. Always make sure to stop the machine completely. And as far as the chips go, this is called a chip hook. This is how we remove chips off the machine. We will use a chip hook to remove the longer chips out of the way, or we use a pair of gloves, or we use a brush. We never use our hands because you only get 10 fingers, and you never want to take the chance of getting them injured by playing around with these metal chips. They're all razor sharp. And that's the Shop 1440 lathe. Thank you very much.